What made me start the R.I.S.E journal? Yeah, pain. It's a short answer, but more sincerely, I told this story yesterday, but I'll tell it again, try to give you a more condensed version. When I was in my 20s, going through one of the biggest heartbreaks, my first big heartbreak, a girl I'd really loved and cared about, and couldn't sleep for months, just frustrated and not able to accept this change. And journaling kept popping up intuitively, but I had all these ideas about what a man should or shouldn't do. And one night at 2 a.m., I just grabbed my, college-ruled notebook from class, and I just started writing everything that was on my mind. And, 10 or 20 pages later, I hadn't solved anything. A lot of it was incoherent. It was kind of random, just every thought. But I felt lighter, and I slept sound, restful, restorative sleep for the first time in months. And I hadn't fixed anything, and so it made me very curious about this journaling thing that all these people are doing. And so I began to journal almost every day, and over time I would get beyond just the kind of releasing and letting go to asking real questions with all this information that was coming up. It was bringing up all these emotions, and I noticed as I was writing, if I tried too hard to find an answer and figure it out, I would kind of hit a wall. And so I stopped and I surrendered. And then I would get intuitive information. I'd surrendered and open up. And I began to write that. And a lot of time it was hard information to hear. But good medicine. And so I didn't want to leave my journal heavy. So I began to empower myself with conscious intentions and affirmations after learning about intentions from Gary Zukov in the book Seed of the Soul. And I noticed how my life started to change slowly but surely. Even the way I showed up, at the time I was full-time musician and a teacher, guitar teacher, and everything began to shift for me, even the way that people responded to me. And slowly but surely, it led me to seated meditation, and now here to share these things with you. But it was a very intuitive, natural unfolding that I didn't really organize because it was my process, but I didn't have a framework until recently. Thanks to you guys when I started sharing on here about 3 years ago. So the R.I.S.E journal in its formal expression is only 3 years old, but for me personally, it's about 20 years old. Someone says, tell us about the challenge. This challenge is just to celebrate 3 years, bringing it back. In 2022, I did a challenge. In 2023, I did a challenge. I didn't do one last year because last year was super busy for me in the best way possible. I was doing a lot of teaching and retreats and performances and traveling, but I didn't have the bandwidth to add on to it. So this year I've chilled out a lot, and it just feels really intuitively resonant. But it's really about challenging yourself to reconnect with your authentic voice. I always tell people when I share, I'm just reminding you of what you already know, right? Which is why people are like, oh yeah, oh that's simple. Well yeah, life's meant to be simple. Listen to yourself, trust yourself, give people grace when they're acting out of pocket, right? They're probably going through a hard time, even though it might have touched a sensitive space within you. Right? We already know these things, but our state of being unconsciously is set to survival mode, defense, right? And so we're constricted. We're not just protecting ourselves from others. We are constricting ourselves instead of approaching life with an open hand, equally giving and receiving our gifts and the gifts of others, along with the rest of it. Because what we're really trying to cultivate is emotional resilience, still calm knowing. How do we stay there? How do we get there? How do we come back home? And the journal is an active, easy approach. It's a lot less intimidating than sitting in silence. which even that much space might have made you uncomfortable, and that was like 3 seconds, right? So sitting alone with ourselves, sitting alone with our thoughts, because now you're present to your own energy. And that expectation, that unconscious intention to be engaged, entertained, right? Communicated to, seen, heard, sort of seeing and hearing yourself. So a lot of what I do these days is it's all about grounding, healing, and transformation through the gifts I have. You can't make the retreat next month, but wonder if you can do them frequently. Retreats, I only have one retreat that I am a co-creator of this year, and that's in Northern California at the end of this month. If anybody's in the area, Creative Essence, check it out. The other one is someone else's retreat, an amazing woman named Kathleen Cameron, and I'll be offering a session or two there in Costa Rica in early November. That's funny. Can you turn the nature down? My ADHD is struggling to focus. I cannot breathe. Right. And that's the thing. We try to control the environment outside of us if our internal world isn't balancing. A lot of us have that. Try to carpet the forest. When the real gift is cultivating the gifts of mindfulness, emotional regulation within yourself, whether you have ADHD or something else, right? So noticing, oh, I'm dysregulated. What can I do for me to fix that, right? So just using that as an example, no shame, no blame, no judgment, because I do the same thing. We all fall into that habit, but I'm pointing out how often it happens. Sitting in silence can be intimidating. Yeah, you're sitting with yourself. We say silence. We don't even want to acknowledge what energy am I feeling in silence. All of the projections I'm adding to life in the world and why it's scary, right? Okay. So let me see. What made you want to share your experiences and knowing with other people? I've known my whole life I was going to be sharing in some capacity. And I knew at 35, it was just an internal thing. I've known. I didn't know it was going to look like this at all. But I've known. And when 35 hit, I'm 40 now, so it was 5 years ago. Went through some of the hardest things in my life, a divorce, COVID. There was no performing for musicians. And moving, right? So just like the big three, relationships, career, and home. And so this was the season where I decided I was going to follow my inner knowing with abandon, right? Make it priority. And as I did, had an amazing Kundalini awakenings as I was deepening my meditation practice and tapped into another part of myself that opened up. And it was all about sharing and connecting, and it was all about being in an energy, our state of being, and how we're so absent from it with all of the externals. We don't tune into what am I communicating with my energy, right? What am I holding? We're so focused on the external, how to turn down the volume, how to avoid, how to stop other people from doing whatever they're doing to us to make us feel. I'm not saying we aren't actual victims in certain circumstances, because we are. But the victim consciousness, the codependent emotional patterns that we all are in and don't realize. Instead of tuning in, right? So this is fresh on my mind because this is the theme in the mindfulness community I host called the Beautiful Souls Community. And if any of this resonates, you should check it out. There's information at my website. We open registration this weekend for fall. But the theme this week is reality as construction, noticing how we're constructing our reality, meaning noticing how the reality that we experience is not just the object, the phone, me on your screen, or whatever it might be, but all of the projections you're adding, whatever you're thinking about, whatever familiar patterns you see in nature here, in my physical appearance, in the sound of my voice, in this practice, and all the narratives you're adding, right? Can you be present to the observed and the observer within you? And know when you're doing that. We're all always doing that. And we're so easy to project our energy onto other people. Oh, this person made me feel, right? Really? Right? Did they make you feel? They woke up this morning and said, I'm going to make Tony feel terrible. Most likely not. Maybe in some cases. But 99% of the time, I would say not. They're just living their life in their pattern and projection, and their boat happened to run into yours because neither of you could see through the fog. Pausing, relaxing, you're getting more regulated just by the sounds of nature, because we are nature, right? And you feel your own energy long enough to get through the discomfort that subsides over time. And that's when you get to the gold, right? Gold mining. That's what meditation is to me. The gold of our soul, the gold of our heart, the gold of our inner wisdom and freedom and liberation. That's what's available to us in these practices, and you already feel the shift. And we had a good time. Played some guitar, just creatively wrote whatever was coming to mind. Didn't take long. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes until it starts to become a more automatic response, right? And that's what mindfulness does. It literally changes your brain, changes your mind, the neurons that fire and wire together. Instead of having the default mode network that says, oh, others have to acquiesce, this entitled kind of thing, and a victim consciousness kind of thing, we can see more clearly. I'm constructing my reality, creating an emotional experience so that I can rewrite the narrative and grow. But many of us do it unconsciously, like I did when I got married and ended up getting a divorce, right? And trying to move through COVID and trying to open my voice because it was stifled by a lot of my own narrative as a young kid, right? With the experiences I had with my family and others. But tuning in to energy. So that's what got me into this work, because that was always very obvious to me. But I wasn't at a space in my journey where I had the confidence or clarity of vision and voice to express it and share it. But the older I'm getting, and the more I do this work, the more things open up for me, to me. And actually sharing here is such a gift. It fills my soul. I say soul filling. My friend Macy used the term soul satisfying, and I like that too, because I'm energized when I leave. Because I can feel and see from your responses how much this work is helping and supporting those who it resonates with. So I hope that answers your question. So I decide if things affect me and how they affect me. You do. We don't realize that we're doing it unconsciously, though. It's all about the stories you tell. So what I've learned is, we say how people treat us is about them and not us. Even if they say something rude or mean. Doesn't mean you don't feel that initial disappointment or frustration or pain. But the suffering aspect of it is something that we create that makes it last. And I can't believe they did that. Why can't you believe it? It happened. You can't believe it because you had an expectation that nobody should ever show up that way, when clearly everybody's showing up that way from time to time, right? So if you pay attention to what's actually before you without the constructed illusory reality, right, then there's presence. And it's not that the world's so dark and meaningless or nihilistic. No. It's that everybody has struggles, and we're all trying to figure it out. That's the hard part, to stay open, to keep your heart open, have compassion when you see someone broken, treating you in a way you don't deserve. You know you don't deserve it. So why is it coming? Because that's where their energy is. They're still trying to process through their wound with a strategy that does not work. Projecting it onto you as we all project onto each other. We all go into these corners and we have this loneliness epidemic, right? Because we're not evolving as we should. Our emotional evolution, which is a big part of my mission. to know that, oh, so now it's pretty automatic to me if someone's treating me crazy, especially when I know I didn't do anything. I practice Tonglen. It's a Tibetan Buddhist practice. It's called giving and receiving. And Pema Chodron would summarize it as saying, just like me. Just like me, they're having a moment of forgetting and projecting. Just like me, they've lost the center of who they are, right? But more detailed in the practice, breathing in, I breathe in the suffering of others because I know it is my own. We feel it, right? Breathing out, I offer love, compassion, and grace, right? Nobody wants that in our world, but it is the way out, right? This is the way out. Because when you do that, you stay open, and it allows that energy in motion, that emotion, to stay in motion and get grounded, right? So I can look at the stranger on the street who is cussing at me for no reason that I can identify other than his own internal suffering, and offer him compassion while still staying open to see them, not avoid, not protect, not shield. Because the reality is, if you feel it, then you're already connected. You can't disconnect. It's my belief anyway. Many people have different beliefs. If you're feeling it, the words that are coming out of their mouth, their energy, their disposition, when they enter the room, you're connected. So what do you do with that? How do you move through that consciously? I honor the connection by seeing the value and equality of each one as one with me, as equally worthy of being seen in their wounding and suffering as their joy and brilliance, right? Hard pills to swallow for our extremely boundaried society. But for me, it's been the way out. And so I've decided to build my life in such a way where the practice of attention with intention, mindfulness, becomes a part of my daily routine. It becomes a part of my sense memory. When I'm pouring a hot kettle of water for my tea, I'm breathing in. When I'm putting the tea bag in, I'm letting it brew, I'm breathing out with the intention that all beings have pure hands to receive reality and open, present to our universal connection. So I'm drinking, I'm grounding, and releasing any heaviness to the earth. And if I'm feeling a constriction in my heart space that's mine or another's, I smile to it and say, I see you, dear one, and I promise I'll take good care of you. A new kind of relationship with our emotions and our energy. Because all suffering comes from misunderstanding. And usually what we're misunderstanding is our unison, right? How we're mirrors for one another. Our projection is a reflection of our internal belief system, the reality that we are constructing, and that is being constructed and projected on us. And it's not until you stop to journal, to breathe, reconnect with the frequency of nature that's always at that still, calm, knowing. Still, calm, knowing. That's what you're trying to get to. That's what peace is. It's not the absence of pain or sorrow. It's the still, calm knowing in the eye of the storm. That this too shall pass. That this is a moment to understand more deeply the suffering within myself and others and offer compassion and heal it and ground it and transform our lives in the world. Right? Still, calm, knowing. That's what the practice is. In the midst of the hurt, in the midst of the grief, still, calm, knowing. The security that you've been seeking, whether it's with your 401k or in your relationship that might be codependent, or whatever it is, your escape vacation, it's not outside of you. It's in the still, calm, knowing. But you can only get there if you go through the desert of your emotional turmoil. Because all of that is just a poor strategy that we made. Protocol number 1, when we were children, that needs to be disarmed dismantled, recycled, and turned into something anchored in the still calm knowing, right? But it takes time, and it has to become a lifestyle, because we're always having an energetic exchange because we are connected, right? If we weren't, you couldn't just listen to this live and start feeling more grounded or open or anchored or feel a shift, or even the internal desire to stay and remain and listen to a dude sitting on recycled wood deck in Arkansas just run his mouth, right? No, there's a reason, and you know it. You may not be able to identify it all the time, but you know it, right? Still calm knowing. It needs no proof. Needs no external validation that we've all been seeking. Still calm knowing. Trust it, honor it, live it. It's my firm belief that our society has created so many boxes for us, and we're all trying to contort and twist ourselves to fit into it with career and call that purpose. Purpose is aligning with the still calm knowing. It's found in every moment, every interaction, every exchange, every blinking of the eye, every breath you inhale. And if you look deeply, you can find the mysteries of love, presence, and bliss are available to you in every moment, if you're dialed into the still calm knowing. So you have to have a practice, whether it's a journal, walking, seated meditation, or whatever it is for your quiet time. But it's always available to you, even in the midst of some of the most difficult, challenging experiences. And the difference there is recognizing that, I'm constructing. I am constructing a booby-trapped understanding and projection of the world, creating a reality that keeps me in a loop of my comfort zone, which for many of us, even though we won't admit it to ourselves consciously, the comfort zone of our own suffering. Right? How many times you know you should make better decisions? Diet is an easy one, maybe a lighter one to approach, but you don't. And you eat the thing and you wake up at 2 a.m. feeling all crazy. You know better, right? But it's an unconscious attachment to that pattern. So dialing back into still calm knowing that wants to push you beyond the comfort zone into this beautiful place of freedom. Moksha is what it's called, liberation.